What is up, everybody? Welcome into a special Tuesday morning edition of Shout, a Buffalo Bills football podcast brought to you by Tops Friendly Markets. 'Tis the season to save on groceries. Christmas bonus is underway at Tops. Shop at Tops and save $10 at all your other favorite stores and restaurants. With over 25 gift cards to choose from, there's something for everyone on your list. And don't forget to treat yourself to some extra savings, too. Be Santa's biggest little helper with Christmas bonus from Tops. For a complete list of available gift card savings, visit topsmarkets.com/Christmas bonus. Special guest today, Chiefs Week. It's always a great week because it's two elite teams getting together, but it's my own personal excuse to get together with my buddy Matt Verderame from Sports Illustrated. Knows the Chiefs as well as anybody, covers the NFL for SI, as well as anybody on the national beat. What is up, my friend?
Not much. What's going on? Just getting to the full swing of the season. I can't. It's already week 11. Like, it feels impossible. I feel like 2 days ago, like the season started, but here we are, week 11.
It goes so fast, and the landscape has changed so dramatically since the beginning of the season. And, we're sitting here talking about an AFC East that's pretty much all but over, was probably like 2 weeks ago. You have a laughingstock in an organization still in the Jets. The Dolphins, who I think could make a little bit of a push. That schedule's not as bad as it looks. Maybe get one of those last wild card playoff spots. But I want to bring you in and kind of take stock in where the Chiefs are. You look at the record. They've been as good as anybody in the league, winning week to week, finding a way to win. And, I went back and watched the Denver game last week, and some of the national stuff was like, they got outplayed, but it's almost like Denver kind of got scared. They got up early and then just stopped playing, it felt like. What, if you could characterize the Chiefs in 2024, where would you go with it?
They do whatever they need to do to win. They're odd in the sense that obviously in this dynastic run of theirs, like, they've had better offenses. Mm-hmm. They've had, where they've had Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce in his prime. And, but I don't know that they've ever been as balanced in terms of offense, defense, special teams as they are right now. Like, their greatest strength is they don't have a big weakness. They're not bad against the run. In fact, they're great against the run. They're very good against the pass. They are great on teams. They can throw the ball if they need to throw the ball. They can run the ball with Kareem Hunt. Like, there's nothing you point to and go, that's the thing that we can just go at them with all game long. It doesn't mean they don't have any weak, like, their left tackle is a situation that they have to deal with at times. And it certainly was against Denver, because when Morris went out and Suamatea came in, Suamatea couldn't block anybody. But they're just, they always feel like they're in control of the game. Even if they're down 7, it's the third quarter, like, they always feel like, yeah, that's fine. We're fine. We'll find a way to win. And to this point, they have.
So they do find ways to win. And obviously a lot of this, the headlines early in the season was, Patrick Mahomes turning the ball over quite a bit. Yep. How much of that is a lot of playmakers going down for them? I mean, not having Rashee Rice, the Bills playing them twice last year, getting a look at him up close and what he meant to this offense, huge. Yep. Isaiah Pacheco been out for most of the season. How big of a piece is that? And how much has DeAndre Hopkins changed the math a little bit for that offense?
Well, I would say, as far as, Rice got hurt because Mahomes threw an interception and then tried to tackle the guy and missed him and slammed into Rice. And it was, look, I would say early on, Mahomes didn't play well. I mean, there were just a lot of throws that he made. Like, what are you doing? Like, why would you throw that ball? I mean, a lot of balls that just really were bizarre from him. Now, the last month, he didn't have a pick in either of the last 2 games. And he had one against the Raiders, and he had one against the Saints. Like, the one against, for Bills fans who maybe didn't see it, the one against the Saints was the exact same throw that Allen got picked off on against Miami with Keon Coleman, where the ball just went right through his hands.
Right.
It was identical to that. And then there was one where he got hit on the arm as he threw it against the Raiders. He's been him the last month, with the outlier game being against the Niners, where he threw 2 picks, and he wasn't good until the fourth quarter, in which he played very well, but he wasn't good in that game. Otherwise, last month he's played very well. But I thought early there was a little bit of trying to force it. I think part of it was, a year ago their offense wasn't good, and it was almost this effort. It seemed like we're gonna be who we are again. And it's like, no, you're not. You don't have Tyreek Hill. You're not going to be that again. He has vastly improved over the last 4 weeks or so. But yes, he early on just weird. Even against Atlanta, he threw a bad pick in that game. Like the first month of the year, with sans Baltimore, he played well against Baltimore except for one throw. The first month of the year, he did not look like him.
Mm-hmm. So Hopkins arrives a couple weeks ago, has himself a really good game a couple weeks ago, and then I think last week he was, he made a couple catches in that game, nothing too off the charts.
4 for 66 or 56.
Yeah, something around there. What is it, change for them? Like, and where do you actually, as a guy that really looks at a lot of tape, where is Hopkins in terms of his age, his ability to maybe be the guy they need him to be, or do they need him to be the guy that he was 5 years ago, or whatever he is now? Is that good enough?
Yeah, I mean, look, I was at the Tampa Bay game on Monday night, and there's no way they win that game without him. I mean, he was a huge difference maker. 8 catches, 86 yards, 2 touchdowns, a bunch of third downs. Like they brought him in, talking to people around that team. They brought him in to basically try to mimic Rashee Rice's role, not to be as productive as Rashee Rice was on pace to be, of course. But they play him a lot in the slot. They do line him up outside too, but he plays a lot inside. I think with Hopkins, look, I don't know that the athleticism is what it was 5 years ago. Like that is probably going to be pretty hard for him to turn back time with. But it's been his route running. And that's always been what he's known for. Like he's a great route runner. He gets himself open because he just shakes guys. He's been good for him in the red zone. He's got a couple of touchdowns. You could add a couple more in terms of, if you look at tape, he's been open on some throws where they could have hit him, but they had other reads. So he's done what they've wanted him to do, and also it's helped him out in the sense it has opened up Kelsey. Like I don't think it was a coincidence that Kelsey. You look at that Bucs game I mentioned. Kelsey had 14 catches in that game, and then last week, he leads the team in receiving again. Actually, Hunt did, but Kelsey was second by a yard, I think. It's opened up a little more space. Instead of always being bracketed, now there have been times where he's one-on-one with the linebacker, one-on-one with the safety, and Kelsey, despite being 35, he still can get open most times against those guys. So, it's just given them another reliable option that when Rice went down, it was kind of Kelsey, and then you're hoping to hit a big play to Worthy. You're hoping to hit a play to Watson here and there. Now they have like another guy who's reliable, and if Juju Smith-Schuster comes back this week, it'd be another guy in that bucket as well.
One of our insiders, G Master G, going to pop this up here. He's asked if we could talk about Cooper's injury news, unless you already mentioned. We didn't. We'll obviously cover that a little bit more in detail tomorrow, but it's going to be a day. We were talking a little bit before the show. It's going to be a day by day kind of thing when it comes to Amari Cooper for this game. The hand injury or the wrist injury has been a little bit strange. Like he was 50-50 against Seattle 2 weeks ago, and then he kind of limited in practice all week. It looked like he was okay at the beginning. Things kind of shifted over the course of the week. And then as we got closer to the game and they made some elevations, obviously they wanted to hold him out. Man, I wonder if it was also like, do you hold him out to get him ready and make sure he's ready for this Chiefs game?
Look, I think them having him is crucial because we know Coleman's not going to play. Mm-hmm. And McDuffie will play against Shakir a lot in this game. They are going to put McDuffie on Shakir, and that'll be a great battle. And the Chiefs will, sit there and say, "Look, he's our first team All-Pro. Like we're gonna put him inside, and we're gonna put him on Shakir, and we're gonna do everything we possibly can to limit receptions and take, especially on third down. And McDuffie, he'll play outside too. But my guess would be that without Coleman there, they will try to put Jamar Connor sometimes in the slot on Shakir and then move McDuffie outside against Cooper. But if Cooper's not there, now it makes it really easy. Now you're just going to put McDuffie on Shakir the entire game, and you're going to single up everybody on the outside. And that allows the Chiefs to do what they really like to do, which is blitz and be aggressive and move guys all over and kind of muddy up the picture. I think even if Cooper's not 100%, just being out there would at least change how Kansas City can go about this thing. if he's not out there, listen, with all due respect to guys like Matt Collins and Curtis Samuel, like they're not going to care. They're just going to play him single up. They're going to press man. They play more press man than any team in the NFL. And they're going to say, beat us. Beat us. Go ahead and do it. And that's where the challenge comes in. Where if Cooper's there, he's a great player. You've got to respect that. And I think you'll see McDuffie kind of move around a little bit more. And then Chamari Connor, who's a hybrid corner safety, he'll play down the slot. He's been very good for them this year. But I think it changes the way the Chiefs can defend Buffalo a little bit if Cooper's not there.
No, I think you make a bunch of really good points. One of the things, like, I don't know how it works schematically. I don't know how much they have this in their bag, but you remember when they drafted James Cook and Brandon Beane came out and talked about, how much they liked him as a receiver. Actually, if you go back to the regular season game between the Bills and the Chiefs last year, one of the biggest plays in that game was the James Cook touchdown on the wheel route out of the backfield. Yep. I think that there is a world that Brady could live in when he can get Ray Davis and Cook on the field at the same time and utilize Cook at various spots around the formation. Like, I think Cook could probably get you some separation because of his short area quickness in the short area passing game. Now, if you have Shakir and Cook lined up wherever you want to put them, right. I know he's not a wide receiver, but and I put it more on Brady to devise what the plan is. But I think you want to lean a little bit on Ray Davis in this game. I think he can run the ball a little bit against this defense. I know they're good. They're as good as anybody on the road against the run. But we know the Bills' identity. The Bills have to run the ball in this game to have success. And I think doing it in a variety of ways will be important.
Listen, you're right. I said this on a radio hit last night. Like, this game in a lot of ways to me is going to be how well can Buffalo run the football. Because if they can't run the ball, it's going to be it's obviously, you just said it's their identity. Like, it's a problem. Like, you've got to be able to run the football. Kansas City this year against the run has been as good as I've ever seen them. I mean, they have shut down everybody. They've shut down Derrick Henry. They've shut down Bijan Robinson. They've shut down J.K. Dobbins, Alvin Kamara. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. I mean, they Jordan Mason, everybody. And in a lot of cases, like, we're talking like 2 yards of carry or less. The only guy who's gotten loose against them at all is Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson ran for over 100 yards in week one. He's it. He's it. I don't know that anybody else has even run for 80 yards against them. In fact, getting ready for this, I actually went back and looked because I started thinking about it. So in 2022, they had their bye in week 8. So, and since then, including the playoffs, they've played 43 games. They have given up 5 100-yard rushers in those 43 games.
Wow.
And 2 of them by the Raiders, oddly enough. But they just don't. They typically are going to force you to play a little bit differently. And I think you're right. Look, Cook out of the backfield as a receiver, that is an area where the Chiefs, you can maybe get him a little bit. Bolton is very good downhill as a run stuffer. He is not good in coverage. If you get Nick Bolton in coverage, the Chiefs have a problem. He cannot cover anybody. Tranquil is a pretty good coverage linebacker. He's a little more athletic. He's a little bit more of a Swiss Army knife. And then a guy who made a name for himself blocking that kick against Denver. But Leo Chenal, I know this sounds weird because everybody knows who Bolton is. Leo Chenal is the best linebacker on the team, like, fairly easily. He's the most athletic guy. He can move around. He does a lot of different things. But if I'm the Bills, I'd absolutely throw the ball to the backs and see how the Chiefs handle that early in the game.
Very interesting stuff. Josh is going to be a runner in this game. I mean, go back to last season, 10 in the regular season carries, 12 in the playoffs. It wasn't actually great, right? He wasn't averaging a lot of yards per carry, but I think the threat of that, and he was a little bit more willing last week against the Colts to get back out and run the football a little bit. He joked on McAfee last week that the body's feeling pretty good, that he can maybe, run it a little bit. And that's something he's got to manage over the course of a long season. Like, he's not like Lamar in the same way that he runs. He's a very physical runner. You do that over a 17-game season. Even sometimes I'm critical of Lamar in that way. The hits that he sometimes takes when I feel like he doesn't have to. Josh is doing a better job of sliding. But man, there's some big linebackers. I went back and watched that game last season. And these two teams, the regular season game, I haven't gotten to the playoff game yet. These two teams have played 4 straight one-score games. It's going to come down to the fourth quarter. These two quarterbacks, it's going to come down to who, makes more plays. And the Bills are coming off a game where I know it's Joe Flacco and this absolute, circus show in Indianapolis right now, but coming off a game with 4 turnovers, like that is another part in this game where if you're this Buffalo Bills defense, you're pretty healthy across the board, all 3 levels on defense. You have to stand up. You have to have a big performance. I watched Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer in that game last year. It wasn't good against the Chiefs. I think I've made this argument for a couple of weeks now because people have been down on DeMar Hamlin, and the Micah Hyde watch has been something that people have talked a lot about. I think they're in a better spot with their safeties right now. And then you look at Cam Lewis, who's now playing in their dime package. He had 20 snaps last week. He was the top graded Pro Football Focus defender for the Bills last week. He's elevated his game quite a bit.
Yeah, look, the Bills, I think the weird national narrative about the Bills going into this season was how much they had lost talent-wise. And I tried to tell people, I'm like, they lost a lot of big names. I don't know that they lost the amount of talent people think they lost. Like, now there's certainly some guys. Mitch Morse was still good for them last year. And Stephon Diggs, I mean, yeah, look, there was a chemistry thing and whatnot, but he was still, very productive, although the end of the year was weird. But there was a whole lot of talk about, the safeties and Tre'Davious White. And I'm like, they're not. Tre'Davious White, look, great career. Unfortunately, got derailed by injuries. He's not good anymore. And the safeties, like you mentioned, it was a struggle. Look, I think in this game for the Bills defensively, man, the biggest thing is they've got to get a pass rush in this game because in the playoffs, that's what killed them. They just could not get home in that game. And it's like any great quarterback. You give the guy 3 seconds, it's over. I don't care who you have in coverage. I don't care what your scheme is. This is where Gregory Rousseau, he's got to win in this game. Epinesa has got to win this game. Von Miller, where are you at? Like you got to have a play here and there. The interior, Carter's been awesome as a rookie. It's going to be tough in the interior. The Chiefs are just so good inside. Like that's kind of their calling card. But Juwan Taylor's weird. Like there's again, national narratives like, oh, he's been terrible. He has not been terrible. The problem with Juwan Taylor takes penalties. Like he can block. His problem is he'll take 2 penalties a game. Left tackle is where if you're going to get the Chiefs, that's where you're going to get him. Like Wanya Morris has been adequate, but he has games where he needs help. And if he doesn't get it, it's a problem. I would expect the Bills to go after that side. I think you have to go after that side. And so, look, I think that's the key. That also, of course, helps the secondary. Because if I know anything about the Chiefs in this game, they're going to try to exploit the middle of the field. They're going to try to throw to Kelsey, throw to Hopkins on end breakers. They're going to try to pound the ball with the run game. That's something they usually have not done in the past. They will do that this year. They are very happy to run the football 25 times. So I think that's probably what you're going to see. And if the Bills can get some tackles for loss, they can get some a sack here and there and end the drive, that'll go a long way.
This to me also, when you could set up 3rd down for the Kansas City Chiefs, I'm looking at Von Miller in this game to have a big imprint. 3rd down in the playoff game, the Chiefs were only in a 3rd down situation 5 times. They went 1 for 5 in 3rd down, and it didn't even matter. So I feel like you can't let them convert and get drives going and score end drives with points. Defensively, this is a Von Miller game with all of the drama, right? The injury, the rehab, the arrest, the suspension earlier this season. Yep. It's been just this long line of disappointment with Von Miller. But I feel like at times this season he's flashed, but I go back to when he first got here and when they played the Chiefs in the regular season, that first game, he was a difference maker.
Yep. I think he has to be in this game. I think he has to be. Not to say that Rousseau couldn't be or Epinesa couldn't be, because both those guys had quality seasons. But they paid him $120 million to be the closer. Like that's why they didn't pay him $120 million to beat Miami. Like they paid him for these games. And we know at this point in his career he's not going to play 90% of the snaps. He doesn't have to have that kind of an impact. They need him to be a factor in this game. He cannot just be a hood ornament. And all of a sudden, you're like, oh, yeah, Von Miller played 30 snaps and then 1 tackle. That's not going to get it done. And you brought up 3rd down, which I think is critical in this game. I mean, it is in every game, but I think really in this game. The Bills defensively against the 3rd down this year have been okay. They're 21st in the league. Kansas City is number 1 offensively. Like, they're not a great offensive team. They're a good offensive team, but they're unbelievable on third down. Like even in third and long, they just, for whatever the reason, it's Mahomes or Kelsey or however you want to describe it, they convert. That is something where, they're at 52% for the season. Like, they're very, very good in that regard. And again, it kind of ties back into the pass rush. Like if it's 3rd and 6, you got to get there. If you don't get there, there's a really good chance Mahomes is going to find somebody and complete the ball. Or not that he runs like Allen, because he doesn't, but he's very effective running the ball. He'll take off. He'll pick up 8 yards on 3rd and 6. He'll slot. That's usually when he'll take off, is on 3rd down, when he sees that he can pick it up. He'll just go and get it. Usually he'll just go down and slide. He's not looking for contact. But yeah, I think this is a game where that edge rush, it doesn't have to be dominating, but it's got to be there. If it's not there and Mahomes can just scan the field for 3 seconds, it becomes really tough to hold up play after play after play. And the same's true for Kansas City. If they don't get home, they're going to have a problem.
We want you to become a Shout Buffalo Bills insider. If you're watching, you get a 2-week free trial when you sign up, $3.99 a month after that. 716-528-6727 is the number to text to sign up. The text line is brought to you by Carrie C. Byer, attorney with the law offices of Francis M. Litro, located at 237 Main Street in Buffalo, New York. If you or someone you know is seriously injured, give them a call, 716-852-1234, or check out litrolaw.com. What do you make of Josh Allen's season? Going into last week, he was, either 1 or 2 in the MVP odds. I think the interceptions and just the general, stat line, I think he's under 60% completion percentage. It was a very funky game until that last series when he really kind of put the team on his back. Do you feel like at home in this game, they need Josh Allen, especially like with the Amari Cooper situation, Dalton Kincaid banged up. We don't know what his status is going to be for this weekend. Right. If those 2 guys and Keon Coleman aren't available or any combination of those, do you feel like this is going to have to be a Josh Allen puts the team on his back game, or do you not want to do that against this Kansas City Chiefs defense? Because that's when you could probably run into some real problems.
Well, I think he doesn't want to have to do that, but I think if those guys are out in this game, he's gonna have to do that. I just, they don't have enough guys. If those guys all don't play or are severely limited in the game, you're looking at an offense that, other than Shakir and running the ball, there's not a whole hell of a lot. And again, the Chiefs in that case, I think, would just say, all right, McDuffie's on Shakir. We're going to put 7 guys down the box and beat us. Look, as far as what I make of his season, I think he's been terrific. He's got 17 touchdowns, 4 picks. His completion percentage is fine, maybe a little bit higher, but it's fine. A lot of that was because that Houston game where it was like 9 of 30. The hard thing in this whole morphing of the offense is you lose some of that playmaking, that devil may care with him, because they've kind of made him play more structured. And by the way, nobody knows that better than Mahomes, who early in his career was just throwing the ball across the field, no look, didn't care, 35 yards. And now Mahomes plays like Brady, where everything is just 5 yards, 5 yards, 8 yards. And then every once in a while, I'm going to load up and go for the win. And I got to say, is it more boring? Yeah, it is. Is it effective? Yeah, it's incredibly effective. I think the great player, and Allen certainly qualifies, realizes that boring a lot of times wins a lot of games. And he has this, of course, there's a time and a place to just go, you know what? Okay, now it's my time. And now I'm going to make 4 plays nobody else can make. And Mahomes has found that balance. He's been great with it for the most part. I think Allen is finding that balance. The Bills are not maybe the show, the showcase that they've been all over the years offensively, but they don't have the personnel at this point to be that. Coleman's been very good for a rookie. He's been a little inconsistent. That's fine. You get it, but he's played very well. I think they'd be thrilled with his production. Cooper comes in. We'll see how he plays. Obviously, he's been dealing with the wrist. Shakir's been awesome, but they're not the team that, for all of Gabe Davis's faults, Gabe Davis was good for 10 plays a year where he would just catch a ball 50 yards downfield. That guy, they don't have that guy right now. So I think realistically, Allen has been excellent. I don't think you could ask a whole hell of a lot more out of him. They're clearly going to win the division. this game, if they win it, they're in the conversation for the 1 seed. If they lose it, 1 seed's probably gone. And then you start looking at, okay, try to get to the 2 seed, host a few playoff games, and try to, in all likelihood, get to Arrowhead.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great point. The one thing on Gabe Davis is so interesting. I went back and, I watch games from last season, before opponents. So I've seen a lot of Davis over the course of the last couple of weeks. And last season was such a disappointment for him that I thought that, in a contract year, he was going to really raise his level. And he played 17 games in 2023, as opposed to 15 in 2022. He had less catches, less receiving yards, and the same amount of touchdowns last season. Mac Hollins, in his role right now, he's sitting here through 10 games, and he has 16 for 197 and 3 touchdowns. He's going to take a run at probably 500 and the same amount of touchdowns as Davis did last year as like wide receiver 4 or 5 in this offense by the end of the season. He was really good last week. To your point, he's going to be out in an island with some Kansas City Chiefs defensive backs. It's probably not the way that you want to try to win. But I think Hollins he's played the Gabe Davis role as a blocker. And I think at times he's been even more reliable as a receiver in small spurts after a disappointing season with Gabe Davis last year. And just imagine if they had paid Gabe Davis versus going out and getting Mac Hollins for that role at the vet minimum, much better allocation of resources.
Yeah, no question. And look, Davis, Jacksonville hasn't exactly lit the world on fire, although nobody is in Jacksonville. They're terrible. But, man, it's like Davis. Of course, anybody in Kansas City has a different outlook on Gabe Davis than I think the rest of the country because of that 13 seconds game where Gabe Davis turned into Jerry Rice for 3 hours. Yeah. Gabe Davis is the kind of guy, whenever you play against him, you're always like, okay, he might have a day where he just explodes for 130 and 2 touchdowns, but he also could go for a month and not do anything. And I think if you're a general manager, it's hard to pay a guy like that because you'd rather have a guy who maybe even is a little bit of a lesser player, but you know what you're getting every week, than a guy who it's like he might show up and have an enormous day, or he might be just MIA for a month and you're completely screwed on the other side of the field. Like I think Davis was always a guy you looked at and said, you know what, he's got a lot of potential, but he just never really fulfilled at least what you think he could have been. He was fine, but he never became a star or even like a real top tier number 2. Maybe he should have been, but it never materialized.
Quick few announcements. This Saturday, get it on your calendar. We'll be at Wingnuts, Ryan Talbot and myself. 6 p.m. our monthly live show there. The night before Bills KC. That's about as hyped as of an event as you're going to find. And we're also at the end of the month before the San Francisco 49ers game coming back to Turning Stone. What's up, everybody? Matt Verderame here with Ryan Talbot. We're the host of the Shout Buffalo Bills football podcast, and we have some big news. We're coming back to Turning Stone Resort Casino. That's right, New York Rec and Social Club, November 30th, the night before the Bills host the San Francisco 49ers. It's going to be a night of Bills football, talking, food, everything, Ryan. We cannot wait.
That's right, Matt. Nobody travels like the Bills Mafia. Come out and join us for the podcast and hang out with us after. The event is open to the public. Guests must be 18 years or older. Come out and let's get after it.
It's going to be a live edition of Shout, a Buffalo Bills football podcast. We're previewing Bills versus 49ers. See you then. Can't wait for that. This has been awesome. I got one more little mini segment here before we go with you. I want to get, your thoughts on the AFC picture as a whole, maybe kind of the hierarchy. And then at the top, and then I also want to spend a minute and talk about the train wreck that's been the Jets, because why not? It's fun.
Sure. Yeah. No, we'll get the Jets. So right now in the AFC, I think, until somebody beats them, Kansas City is who they are. They're the favorite. They deserve to be the favorite. I think Buffalo is the biggest threat to them. I truly do. I think the Bills, it's almost like a division game at this point. Mm-hmm. Like they just know each other so well, and the quarterbacks are very evenly matched. And look, I think a lot of it, and I think people in Buffalo probably agree with this, not so much this week, but if they see each other in the playoffs. Look, McDermott's going to have to raise his game and match Andy. That's going to be the game. Like the Chiefs, they always seem to win on the margins in a lot of games, not just against Buffalo, just in general. Like like even the game against Denver, people will get the field goal block. Oh, they got lucky. Like, look, obviously it's not something you're typically going to do. They scouted the hell out of that guy and knew, like, if we have to, listen, I'll talk about this after the game, so I'm not just shooting from the hip. So if we need a block, we know how we're going to do it. And they executed it. Like it's little stuff. But I think the Bills are the biggest threat to them. And then I think the Ravens are third. I know people love the Ravens, and they score 1 million points, and Lamar's probably going to win another MVP. They can't stop anybody throwing the football. Like, at some point, man, in an AFC playoff where you've got maybe Burrow if he sneaks in, but you certainly have Allen and Mahomes and Herbert and Stroud. Good luck. Good luck winning 3 playoff games when, the Ravens are giving up more passing yards per game than the Chiefs are giving up total yards per game. It's ridiculous how bad they are against it. And I don't think anybody else is capable of getting the Super Bowl. I like Pittsburgh. They're fine. They can win a playoff game. I think that's about the extent of it. Houston can't block. Like, I just don't see a world where Houston goes to Super Bowl. They can't block anybody. And then the Chargers are fine, and they could be a thorn in somebody's side wild card weekend. But I think the only team that I didn't mention that you just wonder is if Cincinnati gets in the playoffs, they're one of those teams. Like, I don't think they can win the Super Bowl because, again, their defense is really bad. But, man, like, if you're a 2 or a 3 seed, you don't want to see that team in a wild card game because Burrow could just have a game where he throws for 400 yards and you go home. It's every game's game 7 in the NFL. So, like, I think the Chiefs, the Bills, and the Ravens in that order are the teams in the AFC, and I think those are the 3 that can get to and win the Super Bowl.
I think the Bills really want to get the 2 seed at the very least to try to get Baltimore in Buffalo if they have to play against them. And then, to me, though, I totally agree with your point. I would almost argue I like the Bills matchup against the Ravens in the playoffs, especially coming off of that throttling in the regular season, more than I like the Bengals game. Because, man, Burrow against this defense has already, carved them up a couple of times. And, you go back to that playoff game in Buffalo early on. That's a tough matchup. I want to get to the Jets before I let you get out of here. I was trumpeting this over the course of the offseason as the Super Bowl hoopla was just picking up steam, each phase of the offseason and through training camp. I thought Aaron Rodgers was shot the last year in Green Bay, and I was sticking to that take. They did nothing substantial to address their offensive line other than bringing in 2 ancient tackles, which, by the way, when does that ever work? That's been a plan that people have tried to use multiple times. Baltimore's kind of tried it a couple times. Kansas City did it, and then they kind of like flipped the script. I know they brought in Taylor. He was in the prime of his career, though, and then they went young at left tackle. You have to. You can't keep going with these retread older players, and I don't even think they were as old as Tyron Smith, as good as he was in his prime. The defense, to me, has been the biggest surprise. But I think Sauce Gardner, I always thought he was a little bit overhyped with the way that he won. Not saying he's not a great cornerback. He is. But people put him in this echelon of just elite players. To me, Sauce Gardner is what everybody should already know Patrick Surtain is. And I don't think he's necessarily in that level.
I don't know either. Like, you and I are on a lockstep in this one. Like, I told anybody I could possibly speak with, like, I don't think they're good. I this whole summer, I never thought they were good. And then, by the way, on Gardner, like, he's not Surtain. He's not. There are certain guys around the league you look at, and like, that guy. I'll tell you what, man. I think the kid in Atlanta is better than him. I really do.
Terrell.
I he's a terrific player. His name completely escapes me, but he's a great.
AJ Terrell.
Yes, thank you, Terrell. Yeah. Yes, Terrell's an awesome player. Witherspoon in Seattle is a great corner. McDuffie is a better player than Sauce Gardner is. Like, McDuffie, it was genuinely shocking he gave up a touchdown against Denver. Like, he got beat by Cortland Sutton, and it might be the first time in a year and a half he's gotten beaten that bad. It was shocking he got beat. But the Jets, man, look, this is why they're the Jets. Everybody wants to point to Rodgers. And look, that's fine. Like, Rodgers wears a ton of this. I'm not saying he doesn't. This starts at the top. Woody Johnson is not a good owner. He has not been a good owner for years on end. Joe Douglas, how he still has the role that he has on the team, I have no idea. Based on what? People always act like he's a great GM based on what has he ever done? Defensively, to your point, they have a couple of star players. I mean, Gardner does qualify as a star. Quinn Williams is a great player. They're not a great defense. They get run over. You can run the ball all over the Jets. The coaching staff, obviously, that has been a complete disaster. Rodgers has not played. Like, if I'm the Jets, I'm praying Rodgers retires after this year. You know, I'm like, oh my God, please, so we can move forward. But then now you got Adams, who a lot of Jets fans got pissed at me at SI. I wrote when they made the trade, I'm like, this is a terrible trade for the Jets. You're giving up a top 100 pick for a 32-year-old receiver, and you stink. Like, this makes no sense. I love the trade for Cooper for the Bills. I like the trade for Hopkins for the Chiefs. Like, the trade for Adams, you're not a contender. You're not the Bills. You're not the Chiefs. Like, you should be trading guys away, if anything. They suck. They're not good, and they're not going to be good because they've got to completely revamp this roster.
I cannot wait for Sunday. Bills Chiefs, 4 p.m. is going to be just one of those regular season games where you're just like, you mark on the calendar before the start of the season, then you get to the end of the year and you're just like, let's go, man. This is going to be this is fun. This is what we do this for. Matt Verderame, let everybody know where they can find you this week and beyond.
Yeah, on Twitter, at Matt Verderame. You can find all my work at SI.com. I tweet out most of it, if not all of it as well. We'll have some columns. We'll have quarterback rankings that go up Thursday. I do those every month. So go ahead, check them out, have fun with them. And this should be, NFL and CBS is going to be in Buffalo. So it tells you how much this game has people excited.
It's going to be a good one. We'll be back, me and Ryan, tomorrow, Wednesday night, Staples show. We will see you then. Take care, everybody.